What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Love and Rice podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
Make sure you guys follow us on all the podcast platforms. Love and Rice, we got YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, and also we're on social media. We have Instagram and TikTok, Love and Rice Podcast. So make sure you guys give us a follow and subscribe on all those platforms. Today, we are talking about some serious stuff, huh?
Yeah, I feel like we're always talking about some serious stuff.
I know it's always this relationship stuff, but
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of you guys like to listen to. And we have a lot of advice to give out because, I mean, we've been married for almost 12 years.
Yeah,
So,
that's a really long time.
well, what is that supposed to mean?
Nothing. There's just once I feel like when you're in a long-term relationship, you always think that you've created a system that works, and then something always happens, and then it's like trying to figure out how to work around the relationship again.
Yeah, things always change.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's your honeymoon phase, and then there's when kids come, then there's like work, and then now kids are now gone and at school. So it's like always changing every couple years.
Yeah, but change is always good. So
Yeah. All right. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about should we keep relationships private? So what I mean by that is, should you keep it private on social media, with your friends, and even family? Because we know how it is in the Asian culture where Asian parents like to talk to their Asian friends and it starts circling around. So like, how much should we keep private? How much should we talk to with people that we know or trust? You know, and I think I want to start off with what everyone has, which is a group of friends. You know, I feel like women always talk to each other, girlfriends, when they have problems and issues. Like, what is it that you guys do? What do you guys talk about?
So I think over the years I've learned that oversharing is not a good thing because there are a lot of friends that come and go in your life, and you always have to be careful about who you talk to.
Yeah.
And usually when it comes to talking about issues that you have in a relationship or things that are just so private, right? I think it's better to keep it in a private setting rather than like within a circle of friends.
Well, what's considered things that should be kept private?
Some things that should be kept private, I would say maybe finances. That's a huge thing. I think when it comes to having arguments or like disagreements about things, I feel like we tend to talk to certain friends about these issues. And it's not so much about trying to bash the other person, but it's more so of like trying to vent and also get some advice from people. So it's like if there's an issue that we have, I feel like girls will tend to talk about like talk to their close girlfriends about it, to like say, was I in the wrong in this situation? Like, should I have done something differently? Did I react the wrong way?
So you guys are actually breaking it down and not just gossiping.
Yeah. So no.
Because as a guy, we always think that you guys are just gossiping and saying shit.
I mean, there might be some girls who do that, but I feel like maybe in my younger days, it was more of like gossiping, right? And it's kind of like just talking crap because it's like you want to vent. You don't know how to like handle situations, right? It comes with getting older and maturity over time. So I feel like girls do it more so just because they need to have that like mutual person to vent to. And I've learned also that when you do vent to someone, you have to be very careful because once you talk about any issues that you have in a relationship, it can taint that person's perception of your partner.
Right.
So I'm always curious because when these issues come up, I'm always like, I wonder how guys handle this situation. Like, do they talk about these issues at all with guys, or like when they're with their friends too? Like, is this something that you guys vent about? Do you guys get advice from each other, or like, what do you do? Do you keep it to yourselves?
Okay, when there are problems in a relationship, we don't really talk about it with the homies. You know what I mean?
At all?
Not really.
Okay.
There's no point. The homie doesn't want to hear all this shit. You know what I mean? Like, number one, he doesn't want to hear it. Number two, he doesn't care. You know, number three, I'm tired of talking about it. You know, we just went through like a whole argument, a whole thing about it. And like, now when I talk to the homies, that's the last thing I want to talk about. You know what I mean? So the things that we do talk about with the guy friends is more of like, hey, you think I should take her to this place? Should I do this? Like more of the positive stuff.
Got
you know,
it.
like, you think she'll like this? You think she'll like that? You know, yeah, like date type stuff, right? but not really the problems.
So I guess like why is it that you feel like guys don't really talk about it? Does it make it seem like
Because it's none of their business.
oh, I see.
It's simple as that. So it's like, why do girls have to talk to their girlfriends about stuff? You
Yeah,
know?
but then like you see a lot of issues. I would say like more commonly now so with like males that they have like these mental issues because I feel like they don't vent as much because they see it as a sign of weakness or like that they're failing in the relationship. But like how do guys vent about these situations? Like how do you handle it and how do you like try to resolve it?
I think it's not so much that we need to vent about it. It's more of we just need to clear our mind. So that's why when we now go out with our guy friends, we're trying to not talk about any kind of problems or negativity because we want to now be in a better place.
I see. That's so different because when girls have issues, they will like talk to their closest friends about things and just try to get it off their chest. And that makes them feel better. But for you guys are the opposite. Like you just want to completely like get your mind off of it and not talk about it at all.
So like we're talking about situations where in a relationship where, the partners are, they have an issue, they're probably arguing is a big thing. And that's like hours of issues.
Right.
Right. So by that time, the guy, he no longer wants to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just needs to walk away and just kind of like restart. But if he goes to his friends and talk about it, it's like another few hours of talking about it, shit like that. It's totally different.
So do you feel like that is a healthy approach to like working on the relationship? Or how do you feel like when these disagreements come up, how do you think they should be resolved and like with who?
What was your question again?
So say if like there are some disagreements or you're having issues, right, that you've been dealing with for hours with your partner, how do you see is a healthy way to like resolve the issue? Like how do you handle it and who do you talk to about it then?
We don't really talk to anybody about it. We just, when we're ready to get back into fixing the problem, then that's when we will fix it.
With who though?
With the partner.
Okay, just
What are
making
you
sure.
talking about?
I just wanted to make sure
What?
because I feel like sometimes problems get left unresolved, right? So that's why I was like, wait, so if you don't resolve it by talking to other people and trying to get their feedback as to like, were you wrong? Were you right? Could you have done anything better? Then it's like you should have
No.
that disagreement discussed with your partner.
It's like this. It's like if we get in arguments and stuff, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go out for a bit, and I go out with a friend, and we're going to go, I don't know, whatever it is that we go do. Like, we're not talking about you and me problems.
Yeah.
But when I'm ready to talk about it, maybe it's going to be like, well, now you and me are resolving it through text.
Yeah.
And
that
when that's
always happens.
and when that's happening, you're not even talking to your buddy,
Yeah.
right? He just knows, he's busy.
Yeah,
right?
I've always wondered
So-
about that because that does happen sometimes where it's like we kind of separate and I'm like, okay, well, I have to say this to him now because if I don't, like, it's going to bottle up inside of me and I might forget later. And then
Right.
I'm like, I wonder how his friend feels around him or if he's like openly discussing it with him. But
It's-
now I know.
It's annoying because number one, when I'm out with my friend, I don't want to be texting you for like 2 hours trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Just we'll fix it when we get back. When we get back home or whatever it is, or when we want to talk again. So it sucks when like the guy has to try to resolve things when he's not with you, and then you're leaving the friend hanging while you're trying to fix stuff.
Right.
Like it's hard. It sucks for the person that you're with. So there's times when like friends would be like, "Hey, you want to go to this thing?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm arguing with her right now. and then they'd be like, "Oh, sorry."
And then they
And
just
that's
know
it.
and that's it. They don't
Nope.
ask you anything else.
That's it.
It's completely different with girls.
Because they don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
We already don't want drama and issues and have to argue with girls. So then when your friend is like, he knows that you are, it's like, all right. Like he's just going to look the other way.
Do you feel like if you were to open up about certain things with your friends that they would like be judgmental about things?
It depends on what. I mean, there are times when we talk to the guy friends about certain things, but it has to be like, if it's like a stupid fight, no.
You're like,
No.
yeah. Okay.
So in terms of guys, when they're with the homies, we don't share
You
anything.
don't talk about anything.
No.
I've always been curious, so that's good to know. For girls, I think you already know because you mentioned it earlier. for me personally, like if we have issues and I feel like we cannot resolve it with each other, or it's been something that's been ongoing for a long time, I will be very, very, very selective. Like I have a few close people that I can trust and I can confide in, because I always, if I talk to people about certain things, I make sure that they're mutual. So it's like if I'm going to go talk to someone or seek advice, or get their like insight about things, I want to make sure that they're a neutral person, so they're not going to take sides. And then because they kind of will put me in my place at the same time. If I'm like one-sided about things, or I'm so upset about something, they'll be like, hey, well, did you think about it this way? Or maybe from his perspective, like this is what he thinks. So it's kind of like I'm like heated in the moment, and then they will help bring me back and like get me to see the positive in things, if that makes sense.
Right. So one of the things that actually guys talk about with each other is if the homie sees the guy who's in a bad relationship,
Okay.
and you'll be like, you know, my girlfriend kind of does this for me. It's kind of weird that yours does that.
Oh, I see.
Trying to break them from being in this blind love relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they just try to casually do it rather than being overbearing.
Right. It starts off with like, so how you guys doing?
Yeah.
You know, like what's going on type of stuff. But that's if it's like that one best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you see that things are going really wrong.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
To try to save the homie.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I hope girls don't share too much with their friends because, you know, like we just said, guys don't really share much. And then when it comes to family, oh man, like for me, I definitely don't share anything with my family.
Yeah.
When it's about relationships and just anything. I think the only thing I shared with my family was like, hey, I think I'm going to propose to Christina.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I get a ring?
Yeah.
You know?
I remember you got your
That's
mom
it.
involved in that too. And I remember that you guys came into the room when we were living at your parents' house. And I had a ring, right? That was all bent. It was a gold ring. And then you had your mom come in. She took my ring and looked at it. And I think she was checking the size of it and stuff too, which was pretty clever. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, I actually love that you had your mom involved in that.
So I think the only thing I talk about with my parents in a relationship is the logistics of things, but not what's going on in the relationship.
Right.
You know, so I don't talk to my brothers about it, my mom, my dad, grandparents, nobody, cousins, nobody.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to distant relatives, even then, like I don't talk about private issues or anything like that, or the conversation doesn't get deep. It's more of like oh, how are you guys doing? Like, how are things adjusting to the kids and adjusting to them being at school, and how has it impacted the relationship? Stuff like that. But it's very like very simple. Like no one really goes into detail.
Yeah, it would just be like a remark.
Yeah.
Right? Like saying something about you in a remark, and then that annoys you or something, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to family, family can have the most impact on your relationship. And
What do you mean?
so like I feel like they can be the most judgmental. They can be the hardest when it comes to your relationship. Because right, they're like your parents, your siblings. Like if they see that anyone is wronging their brother or sister, like they're gonna defend them,
Right.
and they're gonna be so like strongly against certain things. And if it gets to the point where you overshare too much, then maybe that sibling might just like end up not liking the other person. And then that's going to end up tainting your relationship forever. So even though you guys have a disagreement at that moment, and then you guys resolve things on your own and you guys are good, right? They're always going to have that in the back of their mind, like, oh man, but this guy did this before and he's a dick and all this other stuff. So that's why I feel like it's pretty important to be very careful about what you say to your family.
When I'm with my friends and my friends have like brothers in the group,
Yeah.
and they're with a bad girl, they never really get involved. They just say, "Oh man, my brother's a dumbass,"
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you can only do so much. So like in the past, I've been in some pretty bad relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one relationship where my brother, like my oldest brother, he was trying to like look after me, and he kept like trying to keep me away from someone that I was dating. And it was just one of those situations where I was trying to get away, but he wouldn't allow me to. Like, he was very scary. He was like, he got abusive at one point, and he was protective, like, and he was breaking all my phones, and I kept trying to get away. And he would like end up coming to my parents' door, or he'll come to my house. He'll make the car alarm go off just so that I have to come out to like turn it off. Like, I actually needed the key to put into the door hole to open it. And then eventually, like, I was able to get away. And then I feel like I was just always such a forgiving and nice person. And like, I ended up like still talking to that person, not completely cutting them off. And like that hurt my relationship with my brother for a long time. Like, he was so hurt, and we stopped talking for like 2 years because of that.
Wow.
Because he was like, I was trying to protect you so much, and I tried to do all this stuff to keep you away, and you still are like being nice to this guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like when it comes to relationships, once you get your family or your siblings involved, like, it makes it hard for everyone that's involved.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like, because I don't think I'm close to my family the way you are to yours. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't talk about those things. Everything is private. You
Yeah.
know? And I actually like it. Like, I don't need them to talk about problems, but sometimes I will talk about the positive things where it's like, hey, where's this place that you went to last time? Like I said, it's always like, maybe I should take Christina there,
Yeah.
or maybe we should do this and that. So it's like, I only talk to friends and family about things I want to do with you or for you.
So you probably are thinking about the issue at hand in the back of your mind, but you're like keeping that to yourself. But then you're like, what should I do? Like, talking about resolving the issue with your friends, right? If
Wait,
that
what?
makes sense. So you're probably keeping the issue in the back of your mind, but at the same time, when you're talking to your friends, you're like, what should I do to like surprise me, right? Or like, what are things that I can do to like make her happy and stuff like that? Right?
Oh, no. So when we're with the guys, and when there are problems in the relationship, and then you go out with the guys, you just do stuff with the guys. You don't think about the relationship at all.
Oh, dang. Okay.
What I'm saying is, the only times when we do talk, like in different situations, the only times when we do talk about our partner is when it's about things we want to do with them or should do for them, or getting that type of advice.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you think she'll like this? You think she'll like that?
Gotcha.
Like Riz stuff.
Okay.
Right.
So you want advice on like
Riz
things that
advice.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Like
That's the first I've heard of that.
that's all we need from each other.
Okay.
Like, all the other stuff is just stupid stuff. Like, they don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. When it goes back to family, there was something that you said earlier that I was like, it made me question things, because with our parents growing up, like in an Asian household, I feel like our parents were so afraid of like anything that we did, because they didn't want us to ruin their reputation, right? And then they didn't want us to make them look bad, make ourselves look bad, or make it seem like they're failing as parents. So they're like, oh, just like keep everything hush hush. Like, when things happen, like, don't act out, like, don't do anything that looks bad. But then our parents would gossip to people too, right? And talk to other people about the issues. And we're just like, okay, they're just kind of contradicting themselves at the same time.
Yeah. That's why I keep everything hush hush.
Yeah. And I think I've learned in the past that like whenever there's issues within the family, that it's just better to leave it as is, because the more people that you get involved, like everyone gets involved, and it kind of taints like everyone's relationship.
Okay. So when you share things with your family and your friends, are you sharing more good things or more problems?
I would say probably more good things.
Oh.
Yeah, more good things, because you have to try to like see things in more of a positive way, because if you're always venting about your relationship, I think people will probably get tired of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or they're just going to think that your relationship is completely terrible. And I think it's all about balance, really.
We know what the benefit is for keeping details private.
Yeah.
But what's the benefit of sharing?
I feel like a huge benefit of sharing, and this is why I do it. It's because sometimes I need someone to talk to. Like, I feel like with girls, for our mental health, we need to talk about things, and if we cannot talk to our partners about certain things, like we need someone that we can confide in. So whether it's a therapist or it's your sister or it's a very close friend, like I feel
So
like we need that.
so you just need someone to check you other than your partner.
Yeah, it's to check you. I mean, to check me, but also just to like be able to vent, because I feel like the more that I hold stuff in, the more resentful I get. So if I'm trying to like keep it private because that's what people suggest to do, I'm just keeping it to myself. And if I can't talk to you about it, I'm just gonna keep resenting you and hating you and like
Yeah.
thinking about all these negative things, and it's just gonna boil up inside.
So I want to get into talking about what we should share and what we should keep private in relationships. And I know you Googled something.
Yes.
What is this?
All right. So I was doing some research because I wanted to understand like the best ways of keeping a marriage private and like or a relationship private, and how you can or I guess how keeping a private relationship equates to a happy relationship. So I went on marriage.com, and they had a list of things that that they believe that couples should keep private.
Okay. So it says a private relationship is a happy relationship and certain things just shouldn't be shared.
Yes.
And they have a list.
Yes. So the first one is financial problems within the relationship or marriage.
Maybe it shouldn't be any finances at all.
Yeah.
Like whether it's problems or not. Like I don't really want your family to know how much money I make,
Yeah.
because then they're going to talk to all their people and be like, oh yeah, her husband's so rich or so poor.
Yeah, I feel like that's when the judgmental part comes in. And then at the same time, it's like it puts a lot of pressure on the relationship too. So it's like if you're making so much money, then like the expectations of like, or the perception of what people see, it's like, oh, well, if he's making more money, he should be doing this more, buying this more. Maybe
Right.
he should be treating us out more to eat or something like that, right?
Right.
So it's kind of better to just keep it private. Or like if we're having financial issues, then it's kind of like showing a sign of weakness, right? And showing that like we're incapable or that we're struggling. So they don't need to know that stuff.
You know, there's things that I do share with my mom, because when we buy a home,
Yeah.
you know, like in our first couple of homes, we didn't have as much income. We have too much debt to show for. And it's because of our taxes, we write off a lot of things, right? So when you write off a lot of things, or you just start a new business, you need 2 years of your business for them to get pre-approved for a home, right? So there's times when I ask my mom, hey, like they're saying that it's showing I don't make enough. Can you co-sign for a house? You know what I mean? So, you know, that's also when you're like 18 or 21 and you ask your parents to co-sign for a car,
Right.
Because you don't have credit yet, stuff like that. So certain things you can share with your parents that will help you, you know, but they just don't need to know. No one needs to know the bad stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, unless you really need that advice.
Yeah, I agree. All right. And the second thing on the list was deep family secrets.
Like what?
It can just be anything. It can be something that we're both going through in our private lives together.
Like the family secrets that we have, like you and me,
Yeah.
right? We keep those to ourselves.
Yeah. So like, for example, maybe it can be like addiction with a partner, or like, yeah, they have some kind of addiction, or like it can be like any kind of issue that they can't resolve, if that makes sense.
Like if you were, this is just an example, okay?
Yeah, these are all
But-
examples, by the way. That's why I'm not trying to throw
So-
certain examples of people.
So it's like if I was a drunk
Yeah.
and I'm drinking every single day in the daytime, at nighttime, are you sharing that with your family?
Right. Yeah,
You
because
know?
I think when it comes to stuff like that, and these are issues where it's like much deeper than it should be, and it at that point it should be where you seek professional advice and help.
It almost feels like you don't even want to share these things with others, because it kind of embarrasses you as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it makes people feel sorry for you at the same time.
Yeah,
So-
you don't want people to feel sorry for you. I
Right.
think that's key.
Yeah, so I
Right.
think when it comes to certain issues like that,
I think that's where they call it baggage. Like you don't want to offload baggage on other people.
that's true. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you just got to deal with it. Like step up, be strong, and deal with those things. So what else is on this list?
The other thing on the list is the most personal details of your sex life.
The most personal details of your sex life. Okay.
I think maybe just anything with your sex life, because
Like with your friends?
yeah, just with anyone, because that's when judgment
That's true.
comes in.
And it does
right?
get tainted. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I guess when it comes to that too, it's like if you bring up any of these issues that we talked about, like including sex life, what if there was one point where it's like you're not having sex at all, or one point you're having too much sex, right? And then it's like later on, if you bring it up again, then people will always like have to, they might question you about the past, and it's like you have to re-explain yourself, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
There's times when me or friends, this happened, vice versa, and to where a friend would be like, hey, I heard that your girl, something about your girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then forever in the relationship, you're going to think about that. It's tainted.
Yeah.
Right? And there's other times where it's like, there's a girl and I'm like, oh, I know who she dated first. And now I know who she's dating now. And it's like, if I tell the guy now some details,
Right.
it's going to be kind of weird and tainted as well.
It taints it, and it's like so unnecessary because it's like, I don't want to know who you slept with before
Right.
and what you did with who.
Yeah.
Like that was in the past and I wasn't involved back then. So it's like, why taint that relationship?
So I think what we're saying is do not gossip. Gossiping is a very bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Like what is gossiping and what is actually getting advice and help? Gossiping is like things that you just don't need to know.
Yeah. I mean, some people who are like very sexual, they can probably share about like their sexual life, if anything, when it comes to like bragging and stuff like that. But at the same time, going back to like the deep family secrets and all those other things, I feel like if there are personal details about the sex life that need to be worked on, then maybe people need to like go seek professional help.
Yeah. So it always goes to like when it's benefiting somebody,
Yeah.
then you can bring it up.
Yeah.
Right? Because then like if you bring up some kind of like sex thing, then the friends are like, oh, what do you guys do? Like, how do you do that? Like, do they like it? Right? That's benefiting. But then when it's
Right.
about, oh, they don't have sex or they don't do this, they don't do that. Like, yeah, you don't want to share that stuff.
Yeah. And I think so I've noticed this because I'm in a few like mommy groups.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the times people will actually post something, but they post as an anonymous user. So like
Right.
it'll be on Facebook, and then you can post like either with your profile or you can post it where no one knows who it is that's posting. And a lot of the times, a lot of girls, they always ask for like sexual advice and stuff, or they'll talk about like their husbands who have like a porn addiction and like why they're not having sex often and like what they should be doing, what's okay, what shouldn't be okay. And I feel like that's valid because if these people have these issues and they can't get their partner to see that they have these issues,
Yeah.
or they can't convince them to go seek like a therapist to work on these issues, then that's an okay reason for them to like seek advice.
When they have nowhere else to go
Yeah.
and need help. Yeah, I get that. So, but that's also like you're not degrading someone because
Right.
you're posting anonymously.
Yeah.
Right? So, gossiping to the point where it degrades somebody,
Mhm.
that's a no.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why sometimes when people talk, they're like, hey, so I heard I have a friend that does this, right?
I haven't done that in a long time where I was like, my friend
Yeah.
needs some advice. But yeah, I get
Yeah.
it now. So, okay. So the next thing on the list is infidelity or affairs that have occurred during the relationship. For this one, I'm kind of on the fence because I feel like, you know how strongly I feel about infidelity and
Yeah.
cheating and stuff like that. So that's not something that I would be able to keep inside.
Well, I think it depends. So, like, if you're going to continue the relationship, then maybe you shouldn't talk about it with other people.
Right.
But if you are not continuing the relationship and you break up, divorce, or whatever it is that you do, then yeah, you can talk all the shit that you want.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, for this one, like once that happens, then that's it, and it's gonna be talked to to everyone.
Well,
So-
all my responses are going to be like, just don't talk to other people where it degrades your partner. You know what I mean? And if they're not your partner anymore, then degrade them all you want.
Yeah, but I guess that's just the tricky part because I feel like when someone cheats on the other person, they're already degrading them in a sense. So it's like, why protect that person's identity if they've hurt you in such a way? But yeah, I guess you're right because there are people who can tolerate it and who will be willing to forgive the partners. And I've known people who have done that, and even for me, like if they told me that there was some kind of cheating or something happened, I would never look at that person the same way again. So it forever will taint my perception of them. Just don't cheat, guys. Like, that's it.
So how many more items do we have on the list?
We have 2 more items.
Okay.
And the other thing is things that make your partner insecure, like their biggest fears.
What?
Yeah, that I'm not too sure about.
I think that's kind of funny to talk about.
I don't know. Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out what things, like what insecurities it would be that you shouldn't share with people. Like, I don't know. Like funny would be like, oh, if you have a fear of like feet or something and you don't like feet, that's funny to talk about with people. But what is another fear?
That's just what I think is what you said, like stupid
Oh.
fears. But I don't know. Insecure. Oh, how about, okay, I get it. So like, I shouldn't go to my mom or dad and be like, oh yeah, she's so insecure that she wants to get Botox and a BBL
Oh, got
and
it.
get all these shots on her forehead.
Yeah.
Like those are personal, right?
Yeah, true. Or it's like if a guy is insecure about like his body or something, then that would be kind of weird to talk to about with people.
Right. Like, oh, he's starting to work out because he feels like he needs
Okay,
to.
okay, that makes sense then. Okay.
Yeah, that's making them insecure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing on the list is actually that you shouldn't be talking about are heated arguments between
Yeah.
the two of you, and we already talked about this. But I feel like it's on and off. Like there are pros and cons to it, and I would say my advice when it comes to discussing heated arguments is to make sure that you're coming with an open mindset. So choose people wisely with who you talk to, because you don't want it to taint the relationship. You want them to be neutral. You don't want people who are going to just side with you only and bash your partner, because when it comes to these kind of relationships, you don't want their advice to taint your relationship, if that makes sense.
So when you say like come in with an open mind,
Right.
what that means is that once you have the heated argument and it cools off, now you can sanely talk about it with your friends or family.
Yeah. So like for guys, you go to not talk about things to cool off your mind, right? And then for girls, we go and sometimes we will talk about things to cool off our minds and to like be more level-headed. So that's how
Yeah.
we deal with things, and then we come back and we talk about things.
I think that's why girls are always stressed out. For guys, we're like, I'm not gonna stress you out, dude. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you, But then you guys, you're gonna tell the girl, she's gonna break it down so she can tell you her answer. But like, that shit's hella stressful.
It is stressful, but at the same time, I feel like that's also how girls bond. Because when I talk to certain people, I talk to people who can relate. So it's like you can't go and talk to a friend who's like not serious about relationships. They've never had a long-term relationship. They don't like, sometimes they don't have kids, right? Those people cannot relate to your lifestyle. So if they're giving you advice, it may not make sense and may not be the best advice.
Yeah, it's gotta be someone who's relatable.
Yeah. So I'll go to my mom friends and people who like, if it's issues with the kids that is affecting the relationship and stuff like that, then it's like, how do you guys deal with it? Like, what do you guys do? Like, what triggers you? How do you escape from it? And how do you communicate things? Right. So it's just more of like trying to find a resolution.
Okay, so that's a pretty good list. I kind of agree with all of them, actually. I just agree with keeping your relationship private.
Yeah.
So now that we understand this with friends and family, what about on social media? So a lot of people post a lot about their partners, and some
Right.
people don't post enough about their partners. So like, where's a good balance in keeping your relationship private on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook?
I feel like that's a tough one now, because I feel like everyone posts on social media, and a lot of the times people don't understand how fake or how social media can portray like a false happy life, if that makes sense. So a lot of people, they try to like filter out like the bad times, and I feel like they'll always try to capture the good times and the happy times. And then when they post that online, and you see these posts, and you may be going through your relationship issues, right? And then you see these and you have this like false expectation of how relationships should be.
Well, here's what it is. When you're posting online, you're not posting the negative stuff anyways. If you are, that's more like a blog. You know what I
Right.
mean? Where you're like venting, and maybe that's like X, or what is the threads, stuff like
Right.
that. But when it's pictures and videos, you are creating memories that you want to keep.
Right.
So when people say like, oh, all you see is the positive every time, you never see the real part and all the bad things. It's like, well, yeah, because we're creating memories on this album for me to look back at.
Yeah, and at the same time, before we would always post so much, and at the same time, like I would always think about, oh, like I want to be more open about the relationship, or it's like if we have issues that we're going through, but we got through it, I want to talk about those struggles and how we got over it, right? Just to let people know, like, hey, just because our relationship looks perfect, it doesn't mean that like we don't have all these issues, or that we're happy all the time. I don't know if that makes sense. I just, because I see these type of posts from other people and I'm like, oh, they always seem happy. Like, do they argue ever? And then for us, because we're content creators, I want people to see that like we do have issues and we do have problems, but we work through them, and kind of like to show them that like we can get through it.
So I use social media like I do with my circle of friends.
Yeah.
I will share the good stuff because I don't want to stress anyone out about the
Mm-hmm.
bad stuff. Like, they just don't need to know. It's private, and yeah. So I kind of, I the only things I share is like, even before social media, we still had cameras,
Right.
whether they were, what are those disposable cameras,
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? And when you take pictures on disposable cameras, you're only taking photos for memories. You're
Right.
not taking negative photos.
You're not taking
So,
pictures when you're sad.
right.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing as social media.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So when people say bad things about faking on social media, I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like the expectations are different online. And I think what I was trying to say was that like as content creators also, um, it's kind of like a responsibility to let people know. And I think that's why we have these discussions and topics that we talk about on these podcasts, because it lets people know like the ins and outs of relationships, that there are good and bad and stuff.
Right.
So
That's normal.
yeah.
Everybody has a good part in the relationship. Everybody fights with their partners. People get through things, and it's all normal.
Yeah,
You know
but
what
I
mean?
think a lot of people on social media, they prefer not to like see those hardships, or they don't want to. It's kind of harder when it comes to that. But I think another thing with how private you should be on social media also kind of depends on like, should you be posting as often? What's more important, trying to capture that perfect picture moment, or actually like living in the moment and embracing it with your partner?
That goes back to the same thing as cameras before social media,
Right.
right? So let's say we go to a hike to the top of the mountain and we see the whole ocean and stuff. And some people are like, live in the moment, don't take a photo.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I do want to take a photo because I want to remember this forever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm always going to take memory shots because I love that moment.
Yeah, and I think because the way that we grew up and as kids, I'm just like, I wish I had videos of like my upbringing and my childhood, and I wish there were more pictures, but we didn't have the technology back then. So it's like, I think that's why we're always trying to capture whatever moments that we can, because we don't have those to go back on.
So here's something. When Leia was, 2 years old or 1 years old, and she just started to walk, we actually caught her first steps. Like, I just so
Yeah.
happened to be vlogging and she started walking, and we're like, oh my gosh, right? I didn't put the camera down to live in the moment. Like, I wanted to capture that because I wanted to see this
Yes.
forever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I feel happy when I'm recording these moments.
Me too. I mean, I think that's normal, but I think maybe there's just needs to be a boundary with people as to like how much is over recording, or obsessing too much about trying to capture like perfect moments.
Okay, so when you're in the moment and you're out somewhere, it's nice to enjoy the moment for 5 minutes without cameras, and then the next 5 minutes of recording or snapping shots of what you want. I think that's a good balance. But at what point is posting too much and putting it on your feed become, too much? So like, do you ever have your girlfriends or guy friends who just every picture is them and their partner?
Trying to think right now. Sometimes, but I feel like
Is there too much posting about a partner, or is it that's okay?
to me, I feel like I try to be pretty open about it. And I feel like I try not to be as judgmental when it comes to social media because if these people are posting it, like they're posting it because they're happy in the moment and they want
Yeah.
to post it. So like whenever we post stuff and I'm like, oh, I feel really good about this post. Like I'm so happy posting it because I want to, because it makes me happy. I'm like not thinking about like, oh, what are other people going to think? And like,
Yeah.
what are they going to say about it?
Yeah, whatever makes them happy.
Yeah.
That's all I want to see.
Yeah, and I think because when we're posting like that, we're thinking that way. So when I see other people posting and they're so happy, they're in this new relationship, they're constantly posting all these things about like bragging about their partner, like, okay, let them be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. So I think what we figured out is don't gossip
Yeah.
that to a point where it degrades your partner. You can keep a lot of things private, so just don't overshare. But if you need help and advice, yeah, you can ask your friends and family, but make sure it's the right people that you talk to.
Yeah. And I think you also have to understand that when you choose to open up to these people, there might always be the task of like always having to re-explain yourself. So it's like if you are talking about something and then you guys are good later on, they'll be like, oh, but weren't you guys like not doing well before? Like you're always gonna have to re-explain yourself. So it's kind of like that's why it's so important to choose who you talk to and what you talk about.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Love and Rice Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.